Hey everybody, coming to you with my Mr. Heater. This is the big buddy. It runs up to 18,000 BTUs. It's the one with 2 tanks on the side, propane tanks like that. One there and one here. And we're running a little test because I like to take this thing camping, and I've always been concerned about the CO content in the air. I know these things come with a built-in oxygen meter, it says, with like an auto shut off. But I got this one used. I don't know if it works all that well, and so we want to test it. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna shut it inside this Dodge Durango and crank up the heat. I'm gonna leave it on high for about 45 minutes. And what we've got behind me here is a CO2 or a CO detector that will show us the numbers of parts per million. And then I've just got a watch sitting next to it to show us the time elapsed. And so obviously it's gonna get like crazy hot in here. So I'm not gonna sit in here, but we're just gonna crank this thing up on high and let it run for about 45 minutes and see what we can do. So we'll get the camera set up and we'll get this going. All right, so what we found from our first experiment, or maybe, I don't know, round 1 of the experiment, we were out here like looking in the back window of the Dodge, and we noticed that both our phones had shut off, and we're like, ooh, that could be battery. What do we do? So we turned around, we were talking about it. As we looked back in the window, we noticed that after 40 minutes, the CO detector had gone up to about 50 parts per million. And at some point, right when we were standing out here, the heater itself shut off. So that tells me that that oxygen depletion sensor in my particular heater is working great. But so here's what we're gonna do next. That's on high. So that's 18,000 BTUs in a sealed space about the size of the tent. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna put it on a more likely scenario of low. Right? It's pretty likely that unless you're camping in some pretty frigid temperatures, you're not going to have this thing cranked at 18,000 BTUs. This thing chews through propane like nobody's business, so we're going to put it on low. It should run for at least over an hour, and the hypothesis is that it's not going to be consuming as much gas, and so that oxygen depletion sensor is not going to shut the heater off, and probably the CO detector is not going to catch as many parts per million. So we should be safe. We're gonna give it another shot. Probably our phones won't overheat also, so we'll try that too. All right. Let me know.
Yep, go.
All right, so this is our second test, and if you remember, the first test we had it on high, 18,000 BTUs, cranking through this thing, and what we determined was that the oxygen sensor oxygen depletion sensor, which is tied to the thermocoupler, caused the heater to shut off. And so what we did for the last half hour, we've had it on low, and which is 4,000 BTUs, so that's much less. And our CO detector didn't even register 1 part per million. It was down at 0. And so the heater was going on low, no problems. Not nearly as hot this time when we opened it up, but that's to be expected. So the idea of putting it on low, I think that's probably going to be a little bit better for camping, because you're probably not going to need crazy amounts of heat in a tent. And again, the idea of putting it in the bed of a truck or the bed of an SUV, this is a whole lot tighter of a seal than a tent would be. So all that to say, I think we're feeling good about taking this little heater camping, knowing that its oxygen depletion sensor is going to shut off, and knowing that it's not putting off any harmful gases for us.